Welcome to Cars on Call. I'm automotive journalist Steve Schutz, and here, as always, with post-operative trauma surgeon Stephan Moran. Hey,
Yeah, I would rather deliver than receive any day healthcare. And yeah, I am, let's see, last Thursday I had a right total knee and I had the quote unquote robotic
by the
knee.
way, for I think not everyone knows what that means. Total knee replacement.
Yeah, I had a TKR. They completely replaced my knee and I had the new fancy robotic operation. It doesn't matter what the fuck they do. They whack out your knee and they put something new, and it hurts like I have never had pain in my life. And I'll admit, I probably was acting a little bit like a schoolgirl the first couple days
Uh,
after surgery. It's a rough operation, man. Hips do well, but everybody I've talked to that's had a knee, man, the first 2 weeks of a knee replacement are just awful. It's just, I can only describe it awful. I've never taken so much medication in my entire lifetime. Um, I was like, dude, man, he's giving me like 40 Norcos. I'll never go through those. Let me tell you what, I haven't gone through all of them. I quit taking pain meds about 4 days out besides Tylenol. And then I'm down to like one a night, but it's a bitch of an operation, man. That's all there is to say. So if you're out there having it, contact. I didn't, I didn't, I should have like my wife's like, why didn't you chat GPT best things to do after knee replacement? I'm like, well, I'm a doctor. I should know. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't order the ice machine at home, which is compression. I didn't order the
oh,
blow up compression device. I didn't order extra wraps. I didn't order the cushion to put under your leg to elevate it above your heart. I didn't do any of that. I just kind of had surgery and went home and thought I'd figure it out. I didn't. It was bad.
wow. Well, I'm glad you're on the mend. I'm glad you're doing well. Obviously, when you go down the road, everyone says the same thing. Once they get through the recovery process, they're so glad. Most people say they wish they had it
Well,
earlier.
I know I wish I had it early because right now my biggest problem is my right hip now hurts worse than my knee, and my hip hurts because I've limped and had an
Oh,
abnormal gait for the last 4 or 5 years. But anyway,
yeah. All right. Well, welcome back. We're
deliver,
gonna,
don't receive.
yeah, it's a lot more. There's like a lot of things, a lot better to give than to receive.
Yes.
We're going to talk about my M3 that I just put up for sale, almost put up for sale, but sent it off to get sold. We're going to talk uh, PHEVs and what they're all about, and you're going to do that, and then we're going to go through a pretty unusual safety segment that involves a famous crash. I'll just leave it like that. But our trauma surgeon, we're the only podcast that has a trauma surgeon. He's going to go through that. It's an accident that a lot of enthusiasts have seen online, and we're going to go into that. Or Dr. Moran's going to go into that. I spotted a Ford Excursion, and then we're going to. This is the last Cars on Call of 2025. We're going to go through stories of 2025 that interest us that we want to get into. So let's do it, man.
All right. So I guess PHEVs are first. So let me give you a little backstory on this. So, I think just like you, Steve-0, and a lot of our listeners is like, man, dude, I get new car fever all the time. And it's like lately it's like I've tried to convince Ellen that she needs a new car. It's really just to satisfy my new car.
We
But
can relate.
we can relate. So we can relate. So her car is, I mean, it is coming up on almost 10 years old. And that honestly is the 110,000 miles, 10 years old. There's a lot of new safety features out. I've talked about this. Your retirement car, you've had 15 years. You need to unload that thing and get something new. So, and looking, we've talked a lot on the show about electric vehicles, and they're really for the select few that, depending on where you live, you've got access to be charging. And for me, we've talked about this before, the real sweet spot is not a hybrid. Hybrids are nice. So the way to understand it is you've got a hybrid, which is a car with a bigger battery than normal. And then you've got a plug-in hybrid, which has a really big battery that lets you go typically 30 to 35 miles an hour without needing any gasoline. And
I
then
mean,
you've
30,
got
35 miles.
30, 35 miles on pure electric without needing any gasoline
Yep, got
because
it.
it's pure electric. And then you've got electric vehicles. And then down the road, you'll hear more about what are called range extenders. But so for, I think a lot of Americans, the sweet spot to buy Americans in the general population into the idea that eventually they're going to be EVs. They're just going to be that. We know that. But how do you transition people to that? Well, the way you transition them is you give them a nice sized battery and a gas motor. So here you can charge your car at night in the garage. You can run 30 miles of errands a day without the engine ever coming on. But the day you decide I want to go a little further, the engine turns on. Or you decide I want to go to grandma's house, the engine turns on and drives you there, and you fill it up with gasoline like a regular car. So basically, you have a regular car that has a nice sized battery that will give you 30 to 35 miles of pure electric driving. So to me, they really are the sweet spot. Now, you think about it, it's more expensive. It's expensive. You got to have electric motors and a gas motor. But the idea of
And
just,
batteries.
yeah, but the idea of just having a small battery, like what's called a hybrid, that just regenerates a little bit of electricity from the braking and gives you a little boosted acceleration. But really, they can't go very far at all on electric. So to me, it is a vehicle that will allow the public to slowly adopt and accept the idea of one day owning an EV. And yeah, it doesn't drive like an EV all the time, but sometimes it does. And it's, oh, this is kind of cool. This is neat technology. So anyway, but so my wife is classic. You know, she drives to she teaches Zumba, does aerobics 3 days a week. She goes to the post office, but her life pretty much revolves within 30 miles of the home. I mean, every day. That's it. So I said, well, you really need is a plug-in EV, a plug-in hybrid, PHEV. So we started looking to see what are available, and I was kind of dismayed. I couldn't believe how few options there are. So from Toyota, you've got the Prius plug-in hybrid and the RAV4. That's it. Ford, you've got the Ford Escape. That's it. And the Escape is going out in 2026. This is the last year
Right.
production. I'm not a fan of the Escape. My mom and dad have one. It's a nice little compact SUV, but it doesn't drive it doesn't drive like a crossover. It drives more like an SUV. And something at that size in my mind is really just simply a crossover. It's a jacked up car. It needs to drive and ride like a car. Kia's got the Niro and the Sportage, the Sorento. Hyundai's got the Tucson plug-in hybrid. That's it. They've got several electric vehicles. Mazda's got the CX-70 and 90, both of which are mid-size and large-size SUVs. Lincoln has the Nautilus, which we drove. So the Lincoln Nautilus, if you're not aware, Lincoln Nautilus is actually made in China. Lincoln sells China. Sorry, I had to say that. Lincoln sells a lot of vehicles in China. And the so Lincoln designed an SUV for the Asian population as a global vehicle. What does that mean? That means it's a two-row vehicle that has a lot of room for the backseat passengers because most of these people like to be chauffeured. There are not three rows because they are not carting around kids. This is a executive, wealthy family's vehicle. And the Nautilus, you need to look at this thing, dude. It's got the coolest dash. It is the coolest. To me, what it is, this is a modern interpretation of an EV that happens to be a plug-in hybrid. It looks,
What's the Ford equivalent?
there isn't one.
I didn't think so. I know
No, there's no Ford. It's not. This is
yeah,
their global platform. It's Lincoln
yeah.
only. And listeners, just you may have never thought about owning Lincoln. That was your grandma's car, the town car. But if you're just driving around, you go by a Lincoln dealer, walk in and take a look at the Nautilus. I was amazed at the fit finish. The interior is beyond cool. Ellen loved it, but for her, it was just too big. It's about the size of a Hyundai Santa Fe. It could almost be a three-row vehicle. It's large. It's got a super long wheelbase, comfortable. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful. The only thing it's got one of those weird not round steering wheels, which the
Oh
rest
yeah,
of
I drove a press car Navigator and it had one of those, and It's weird. It's like a yoke. I don't like it.
That's a rest of the world steering wheel. The rest of the world likes those. And then the Lincoln people said, well, they told us they put this in because Americans have got so big, it's easier to climb in with because the steering wheel's not round. I'm like, well, oh well. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But the European, if you look across the European manufacturers, sports cars, everybody, they have steering wheels that are not round anymore. Americans are slow to adopt. I like a round steering wheel. But other than that, so I was kind of like, now there's a couple other Jeep because Stellantis has got the Wrangler and the Grand Cherokee. They've got plug-in hybrids. Luxury, the BMW X5, the S-Class is way out of our price range. The XC60, which is the mid-size from Volvo, has a plug-in, and then their XC90, their large one. But that's it. So I was really surprised. I expected to find a lot of options for a plug-in hybrid, and there are very few. Ellen's like, we'll just wait and this new car fever yours will run out. But we're kind of looking now at maybe the Ioniq 5, which is the all-electric um, Hyundai, because for Ellen, what's important is that she can get in and out of the seat without having, she doesn't want to climb up into it. She hates that. And she's
Yeah.
short, she's 5 feet tall. So the Ioniq 5 is really more of it's not an SUV, it's an electric vehicle that's got a lower entry profile. So we're kind of looking, but also I think the manufacturers are missing some opportunity here. But clearly, this is just, I mean, it's me and where I'm at in my life. But I think, sales probably do not reflect that Americans don't want PHEVs. I think that's what it
I
is.
I think that, what's happening and what we're seeing reflected in the small number of PHEVs for sale is that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, car manufacturers were taking all of their R&D money and putting it into pure electric with the knowledge that there would be a new generation of solid state batteries that would let their cars go 600, 800,000 miles on a charge. And all they had to do was build these great vehicles and then plug in these brand new batteries that would go forever. And they would sell like crazy. And the problem is they spent all the money and the battery technology did not follow. It
Yeah,
did not
exact. Very
appear.
good point. Good,
It
great
didn't
point.
appear. So they spent all this money. It was a bunch of money to nowhere. And now they're like, oh shit, this not only is the battery technology not here yet, it looks like it's not going to be here in 5 years and maybe
No,
10 years.
yeah.
So they're all, completely redoing their R&D. They're like, oh shit. And they're trying to scramble to kind of and they've realized, as you have, that this plug-in hybrid is a bridge to that new battery technology, which again, it's not going to be here in 5 years, maybe not even 10.
What do you think, Steve, if you had a PHEV, what do you think is the sweet spot mileage that you'd want? Most of these, I just may back up. Most PHVs, the reason 30 miles is kind of where most of them are is if you're in Europe, in a lot of the major cities now, if you don't want to pay more tax, if you don't want to pay more road usage fees, you need an electric vehicle. So a PHEV in Europe is important because you have to have enough mileage on your battery to get out of the city in electric mode. So that's kind of where this 30 number came up that people could drive in the city, do their errands, come back, or leave the city and not have to worry about paying extra road usage tax. So what do you think is the sweet spot that if you had a PHEV, a plug-in hybrid, how many miles would you want to be able to go in your battery?
100. And the reason for that
I
is
like that.
not because I need 100. I don't think anyone needs 100. But unless you drive slow or unless the weather's great, the mileage number for a BEV is nowhere near where you're going to get in real life.
Yeah.
And if it's cold, you're not getting 30 miles. You're going to get 18. And if you're driving, the way we do, you're probably going to get 18.
Yeah.
So for that reason, in real world, and the way they test these things and get the 30 miles, that's not a real world number. So I'd say 100 so I can get 50, 60, 70 real world miles.
Yeah, real world miles, that's key. And if you were to buy an EV, what's the minimum number of you think real world miles that you would want to do it on one charge?
500 for the same reason. Bad conditions, cold weather, it's not going to be 500, it's going to be 250.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
All right, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of check out the Nautilus. It sounds interesting.
You,
I
you really
do
need to,
like
you need
Lincoln.
every, I'm just listeners, just go check out the Lincoln Nautilus. I had to pull a picture up of it. It is, first of all, it is a gorgeous vehicle, incredibly well built. I mean, I know it's made in China, but we
I drove
were,
it. The Navigator I drove, Stefan, same thing. Great screen, great technology. It felt like a really technologically advanced, really comfortable F-150 with a back on it, which is what it is.
yeah. So here we go. Here's a picture. Let me share. There's a picture of the Nautilus. Very nice looking SUV.
Yeah.
And then they should have, look at that dash.
Yeah, that's exactly the same as the Navigator.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
just gorgeous. Look at that. And the thing that Ellen, my wife, said was this is the first vehicle she sat in that she did not have to raise the seat to actually see the hood.
well, it makes sense. Your wife is short, and this is designed for Asians, and Asians are short. It makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. It's a wonderful vehicle.
Hey, I'm going to talk about a car that is not a BEV, and I'm selling my M3. So, for listeners who are not aware, I turned 50 years old in 2013, and I bought a new BMW M3. It's a 2013 edition. I have three sons. That's my youngest son, Peter, next to my wife, Elisa, and me in Munich at the factory. So we took delivery, white on red, BMW M3 E92. We took delivery in late March. They stopped production in June. So this is really the last of the run. Drove it around Europe, sent it back. It's got a V8 and a manual transmission, 6 speed. It combines, I like to say, the utility of a Honda Civic with the fuel economy of a Suburban. It sucks gas. I don't
Like
care.
how
The
many miles
engine's
a gallon did it was realistically?
generally 12 to 13.
Gee, that's like my Cobra was like 12 to 13.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is not a BEV, but it's got a 4-liter V8 that it just screams, has an 8,500 RPM red line. This car is just nasty and loud, uncouth. It's everything we love in cars, Stefan. But I just got tired of it. I only had 16,000 miles after
This
12
was a
years.
BMW's muscle car.
Yeah, that's it.
This is their classic. This is like throwing a V8 in a Dodge Dart, man. I mean,
Yeah.
this is totally. I drove it. I
You
had an
drove it to
absolute.
140 miles an hour, Stefan.
Yeah, I know. I went a little bit fast, but I absolutely love driving this car because I love driving my Mustang Bullet with 500 horsepower, but this car probably weighs honestly 1,800 pounds less. You know, and it was such a joy to drive. I just had a shit-eating grin on my face like a 13-year-old boy the entire time because you could just get on it. It was light and quick. It was loud, like you said. And we on this show, we all love you, Adams, and I love cars are just a little bit nasty. I mean, just they'll bite you a little bit. They'll remind you that, hey, dude, you're not as cool and fast as drivers you think you are. But that car, I had a blast driving that car. I always look forward to visiting you in Sun Valley. And as you would say, let's go exercise the M3.
It's a it's a German car with a tramp stamp. But
Oh, yeah.
I just got tired of it, and I felt like, I didn't enjoy it the way I used to. I've driven it a lot, but I just kind of was like, I'm ready for something different. If you scroll down, you'll see what it actually looks like. And I just decided it was time. So 911R is a consignment company that sells. There's the red interior, and then yeah, you can see the gear shift. The car's in great condition, absolutely perfect condition. I changed the rod bearings, which is something you have to do. There's the car again, and anyway, if you scroll down one more, you'll see the car on on the transporter, and it went to 911R. They're gonna put it up and bring a trailer very soon, and it'll be sold. I'm excited to move on. So anyway, that's it. And
Well, I think let's before we leave this, I think so for our listeners, there's cars that when you look at this kind of car, BMW M3. there are the people, there's the enthusiast buyers, and then there's buyers that just want the latest, greatest. But there are people that spec their cars because they're truly an enthusiast wanting a raw experience. And you spec this car that way. So tell a few the deletes that you did, the options you chose not to have that I think are going to make this a very desirable M3. Decontenting, basically.
Yeah, this was the last 3 Series you could even order without iDrive. So I got it without iDrive, and that's a desirable one. If you get iDrive, there's two bumps in the dashboard, one for the tachometer and the other one for the iDrive screen. That's deleted, and that's a desirable thing. When I ordered this car, I just wanted a stripped down driver car. So that's gone. But I specifically did not want iDrive. And then obviously manual transmission, but manual seats. And I really didn't get any other options. I got heated seats, and that was it. So I was really, really
Was a
focused on
carbon roof
making
an option?
carbon roof came standard. So if you got a
Yeah.
sunroof, then you deleted the carbon roof.
Now, why would you want that?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
carbon fiber roof was very important to me. Obviously, it's much lighter than a regular metal roof, steel roof, and it lowers the center of gravity. And this is one of the first cars that had a carbon fiber roof. There's no way I was getting a sunroof on this car.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great, great, great spec. I mean, I love it. I like the whole idea of manual seats because this is not a car that you don't need three different driver memory positions. No. This is the guy that bought the cars or the gals that bought the
Yeah.
car. They adjust the seat where they want it and it stays there.
I'll just say very quickly that I typically buy new cars, and more and more, I'm not happy. I don't get excited by new cars, even new performance cars, because it's all software and screens. And I've kind of decided I don't really want to get another new car. This was probably my last new performance car. Actually, my Porsche was, but I don't know. I'm just psyched to get older cars and try other experiences. And Adams has had an influence on me. Adams Hudson, our co-host, is unavailable today. He gets a lot of different cars and swaps through them. And I'm like, why don't I do that? I don't want to get as many cars as he's got. And he's had over 100, but I want to get some cars and keep them for a few years and sell them.
Yeah. I've sold a few over the years. A couple I kept, like I still have my 99 Miata because I grew up loving the English two-door convertible. And I
Right.
had an Austin Healey bug-eyed Sprite that was just a nightmare in terms of maintenance. And to me, it's in the Miata. I've got an original Miata. I'm sorry, a second, the B series, the second one that came out. And I have an emotional attachment to that car, but not the car. The emotional attachment is to British roadsters. And
Yeah.
we'll see. When I get the Cobra, I will probably end up selling the Miata. But one of my daughters, Caitlin, wants that car. Her partner Reed had one. So I'm like, why sell that car for 10 grand? Okay, I just keep it and then give it to them. Let them decide. What? I don't need the 10 grand. I know it's a first world problem, but is it worth 10 grand to me just to keep it? It's sad to say it is. I have an attachment to that car.
Yeah. But when it's just like this M3. When it's time, it's time. All right,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a very famous crash that happened. It was very tragic, and it really got a lot of internet time. I've seen the video a lot, and a very sad situation. So, Stefan, talk about that in our safety segment.
Yeah, so listeners, you may or may not have read or seen, but there's a guy by the name of Vince Zampella who is not a name to me, but he was the co-creator of Call of Duty. So I think most of you, if you've never heard of Call of Duty or you have boys or even maybe a husband, Call of Duty is one of the all-time hugest video games ever. I've never played it. And
But
it's called
think about how many homes around the world have a video game set with Call of Duty on it. It's many million.
I can't even I can't even imagine. I mean, this is like, somebody that did Windows, okay? This is like the Windows of this is the Microsoft Word of the gaming world. And he was in a 2026 296 GTS, which is the latest Ferrari that is a hybrid. It's got electric motors in addition to the gas motors. An incredibly capable fast car, which far exceeds probably 90% of the people that own this car, the capabilities of this car. This is really it's a supercar bordering on hypercar performance, though it's one of Ferrari's entry levels. And there's a famous road in California called Angeles Crest Highway, and you'll hear when you watch YouTube and driving reviews, car reviews, most of the guys are on the West Coast, and they really go up to this road to sort these cars out and driving them. And but there's people that crash all the damn time on this road. I mean, it is a hell of a road. It's not a race course, but people go up there acting like they're on a racetrack. And he was on this Angeles Crest Highway, and there's a set of tunnels, and he's going through a tunnel. And I watched a couple of videos, listened to a couple of people explaining it, but when you're in a tunnel, you get a different perception of time and reality because of the way things are changing your peripheral vision. In addition to that, you've got the auditory stimulation of it just sounds freaking awesome. So you really want to hear the engine come out. You come out of a tunnel, think about it. You're going from dark to light. Boom. Immediate change to the visual senses. And then right as you come out of this tunnel, so you're hauling ass out of this tunnel, which is a slow turn to the right. There's a dip with a turn to the left that's a little bit off camber. That means it's not totally banked. And been a lot of crashes at this site, and there was a Jersey barrier. And for Jersey barrier, those T post, the concrete pieces, T-shaped, upside down shaped pieces of concrete like a T that you see along the road. Those are called Jersey barriers. He came out of the corner, went to turn left. The car just is going too fast, couldn't turn, went into understeer followed by oversteer and took the Jersey barrier mid body of the car. I mean, you can see it on YouTube. It is absolutely a horrific crash. The car burst into flames. He was dead at the scene and he had been trapped in the burning vehicle, just terrible. A passenger was ejected and actually in kind of part of the seat, survived initial crash, but died in the hospital. So what I want to bring up two things with this. Number one is let's talk about energy. Let's talk about energy in a crash. So when you crash a car, you have to go the speed you're at to whatever the barrier is. So he came out of that corner, let's say just 100 miles an hour. He hit that Jersey barrier. He went to 100 to 0 in just microseconds. So what happens is that energy, the more that energy is dissipated in that crash, the longer it takes the car to fly apart, the longer you have to slow down. Okay. It's like if you're in the front of the car at the bumper and hit the concrete barrier, boom, you're dead, right? But if you're let's say you're at the bumper of the car and you have the entire front of the car to crush ahead of you, you got a better chance to survive. What we call this is so vehicles are designed to dissipate crashes. Cars on the road are designed to pass the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's rules and regulations, FMVVS. They're designed to hit barriers at offset, 40% offset. They got a T-bone crash. They're not designed for this. But what I'm showing you a picture of here, this is Bortoletto's crash at Brazil. You can look this up on YouTube. Over a 58G deceleration crash, which is
Wow.
unbelievable. Most people suffer blunt vertebral artery injuries from the neck flexing forward. But if you look at this picture, this one, the photo of the year, what you see is you can hardly even see the car because you're just seeing pieces and bits flying through the air. Okay, what that is dissipation of energy. That is that kinetic energy being transferred to the Formula One car, which is breaking up around the safety cell of the driver. This car has a safety cell to protect the driver. It's got the halo. He's wearing the 6-point belts, everything. So this car is designed to allow him to ride down this kind of impact. In the Ferrari 296, Zampella had zero chance hitting a Jersey barrier. That car is not designed for that. It does not have a true safety cell. He doesn't have 6-point belts. Okay. So taking these street cars like this car, this hyper supercar, and doing this kind of stuff he was doing on the open road. Now, if he'd have been at a track, there would have been a runoff area. And some tracks are more dangerous than others, like Road Atlanta, because you can go really fast there, and bad things happen when you're going fast. Sonoma, was it turn five? Not Sonoma, Laguna Seca, when you come up the corkscrew, you go down to turn five at the bottom there. A
Yeah.
lot of crashes there. People end up hitting the barrier, they break their arms or legs. So, the question becomes, first of all, that road is not a racetrack. He was driving racetrack speeds in a car that did not have racetrack safety restraint systems, did not have a safety cell, did not have a roll bar in it. He's basically taking a street car that passed National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's, driving it like a race car on the street and missed a corner. I mean, bottom line. Yep, sad, but dude, I'm sorry. It's the wrong place at the wrong time, and speeding in the wrong place is what kills. So it kind of brings up the whole question, does speeding really kill? And what are the risks of owning these cars and driving these cars? I mean, hell, I got a Bullet Mustang, 500 horsepower. You had the M3. We know high speed is a major risk factor, and speeding has been contributed to 30% of all traffic fatalities. But like I've spoken about, driving 10 miles under the speed limit in the interstate also puts you at increased risk of injury fatality. Street racing is just a bad deal. Okay. It increases crash severity. You're hitting other cars that are stopped. You're hitting people. You're hitting telephone poles, light poles, everything. Street racing is bad. And they're always occurring at high speed, once again, in cars that weren't designed for that kind of crash. Insurance data. That's why it costs more to insure a 911 than it does a Toyota Camry. Okay. They know the type people that buy these vehicles. Even if you don't drive it like that, because it has the capability, the people, the bad apples that drive these cars fast and crash them, just type in Mustang and cars and coffee. Okay, you'll see so many guys coming in Mustangs, flooring it, losing control and crashing. It just happens. So insurance data is higher on this. Fatality rates are higher. And illegal high-speed driving does have a disproportionate share of serious injuries and death. There is no absolute study that's ever been done looking at this. There's no clear data set, but there's enough data that you can draw an interpretation, not of statistical significance. But you know what you know. Okay, it's like what Marshall Thurgood said: you know porn when you see it. These cars, if in the wrong hands, doing the things you should not be doing, result in bad crashes and people die. So the bottom
Was
line is these supercars and hypercars, if you want to drive them at 6 to 10 tenths, don't do it on the road.
it was Potter
But
Stewart, the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart. But
I thought it was Marshall. I thought it was
no,
Marshall Thurgood. It's Potter
no.
Stewart. Okay.
Anyway, I would just say, I looked at that crash with different eyes thanks to Cars on Call. You have
Okay.
made that point many times, and I watched it. And as soon as he crashed, I said to myself, that guy just went 100 to 0 in 5 feet, because that's what
Yes.
happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
And which
He
is you
broadsided that Jersey. He T-boned that Jersey barrier.
yeah, he went right into
Mid
the end of it.
passenger compartment.
Yeah, he went right into the end of it, number one. And number two, another thing that you talk about physics wise, is that if you go into a wall, you have the entire wall that spreads out the energy to the width of your car and the length of your car. He goes into this narrow T, which is probably what, 9 inches wide,
Yeah.
and all that energy is like a spear that's
Yes.
focused. So that thing went into his car like a spear.
Right. So yeah, yeah, and great point again, Steve. But the point is, the longer that you can take to slow down in a crash, the better you're off. And the larger the area of the presentation of the crash allows greater dissipation of the force. It's
Yeah.
and
I, you know, I've heard commentators say this, and I'm going to disagree, but I'm going to disagree reluctantly. And what they've said is, McLaren, Ferrari, Lamborghini, they are selling cars that have so much capability. They shouldn't be, you shouldn't be allowed to drive these cars on the road because it's too much capability. And if by the time you're going fast and by the time you get in trouble, you're going really, really, really fast. My M3 and your Mustang are way less capable and way less fast and not Ferrari
Yeah,
this guy was driving.
yeah,
Now, I wish, I don't want people to not be able to buy these cars because they really are great. But damn, this guy really got in over his head. Oh, another thing I want to make a point about that tunnel is there's
okay,
two tunnels, and this guy, I think that the tunnel is probably the most important thing. He was disoriented, and I think he came out of the tunnel, and your brain is processing the change in light rather than processing your speed and making the turn. So
absolutely.
I think that's one thing. Second thing is you can do it the other way too. There's a very famous Subaru video happened 8 years ago. That guy came out of this. This Subaru, it was a Forester XT. So it was a Subaru Forester with the WRX STI drivetrain. He came out of that thing and then he got off the gas because he got disoriented. He did the opposite. So Zampella understeered. This guy oversteered. The back came out in that left turn. The back came all the way out and he went over the cliff.
Oh,
And there's some kind of like water pipe or something that goes way out that's really huge. And he landed on that. And for that reason, he stopped. So instead of going down 100 feet, he only went down like 20 feet. And that saved his life. I've seen videos of GT3 RS Porsches getting hoisted out by a crane on Angeles Crest Highway. You really need to have respect, enjoy the road, but oh my gosh, with these cars' capability, there is a lot of chance of getting killed.
okay. I know people say, well, they shouldn't be manufacturing these cars, these hypercars, supercars, McLaren, Porsches. Okay, what about the GMC Hummer EV? Okay, the thing weighs 9,000 pounds and does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Okay, I mean, in my mind, that's even more of a sin. That's even worse.
Well, the
9,000
problem
pounds, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds?
the problem there is you can hurt other people in addition to hurting you. So that's the other
Absolutely.
problem. So,
Yeah,
it's an interesting time we live in.
it is.
Oh, I
And EVs are just going to make it worse because EVs are so damn fast.
and you're going to hurt somebody else. Yeah,
Yes,
I agree. It compounds the risk to you by adding risk to other people.
yes.
Anyway, I feel bad for the guy. I feel bad
I
for his
feel bad too,
family,
man.
and
And the passenger.
the passenger
The
was like Paul
passengers, that's the
Walker.
worst to me. That's the worst to me. That's the worst. You
Oh
took
my
someone
gosh.
for a joyride and you kill them.
That's what happens with Paul Walker. How can you
Yes,
do that? I
yes,
think if you have a passenger with you, you must dial it down. Never drive as fast with a passenger as you might by yourself.
yes.
Oh, it was horrible.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's move on to a very safe car that I spotted. And I saw an Excursion, and we've never talked about the Ford Excursion, but I think
Yes.
the Ford Excursion is worth a moment. Ford decided we're gonna because they were making all these SUVs. This is really the early days of SUV dominance, and they said we're gonna how big can we go? And Ford said hold my beer, and made this thing that is significantly larger than a Suburban, and it's based on an F-250 platform. A couple points about this car. They made it from 2000 to 2005. It was F-250 based, seating up to 9 passengers. I tested this at the time, up to 9 passengers. And if you have the third row up, there is plenty of room for all kinds of gear behind that. This is a really, really big vehicle. Absolutely, it's wider than you think because the design made it look proportionally, smaller. But this is a really, really huge vehicle, so capable. You could have either, and almost no one got it with a 5.4 liter V8. Most people got it with either the 6.8 liter V10 or the 7.3 liter diesel. And then this was a car that you could tow up to 11,000 pounds. So it was great for big families, but it was really great for towing. The idea is that if you have horses or if you have a big boat, you can go to the lake with this. You can take your 4 kids, all your stuff, your boat, and your jet ski, and you're absolutely fine. for that reason, they stopped making it in 2005. These are still very popular as used cars, and a lot of people will take them, gut the interior. The interior was very plasticky, very cheap. They'll gut the interior, put in a nicer interior, and they drive it even today.
There's still a company, I'm pretty sure it's in Texas, that still will convert an F-250 to an Excursion. To me, this is, if you're going to own a big ass SUV, an Excursion with a diesel, man, that's the epitome. It is. A friend of mine, David Jones in Atlanta, he's got one. And he absolutely loves that thing. He's got a little bit jacked up. He's got the rack on top. It's got the monster diesel. You talk about you can tow anything with as much gear and as many people as you want in the back. And it's the ultimate American SUV in my mind. There's nothing greater than this.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't continue it.
Yeah, it really is.
It was emissions and I think it was mostly emissions, obviously fuel economy. I wrote down the fuel economy. Yeah, the V10 was ranged between 8 and 12 mpg. The diesel was much better, 12 to 18. And that's without an RV behind it or a
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
It's amazing. This was a moment in time, Stefan, and these excursions, you still see them around. The resale is amazing.
Oh yeah. They talk about holding value.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So anyway, yeah, I saw one and I just wanted to talk about because we have not talked about it. This is the last show we're going to do in 2025. And I thought, let's go through some topics. We went back and forth on some of the topics. So we're going to go through a few topics which are interesting. I'll start with one, which is 2025. They announced that the Volkswagen ID Buzz all electric BEV is being discontinued. And it's a shame. I think it looks really, really good. I think it looks great. The design is wonderful. And you can talk a little bit about not only this, Stefan, but also kind of the another story, which is the decline of electric cars. You kind of hinted at it earlier, but we can talk a little bit more about the decline of all electric cars in 2025.
Yeah, I think, the the ID Buzz is, based on the old VW van.
It looks
It,
great, right?
it looks fantastic. They kind of screwed up with the back seat. Our regulation said the seat was enough for three people. They only put two seat belts in it. They had to stop sale of them. Then they had to like design this aftermarket cushion that you throw in the back so you couldn't technically put three people in the back seat. But you think about it, these cars were kind of beatniks, or there were families that needed a like first minivan of its era, and they were frugal, a little bit counterculture. So when this car was initially announced, I thought it would sell like gangbusters. But then it came in, it's an EV, it's got limited range, the seat's kind of screwed up in the back.
And it's
You
like
can't,
80 grand.
and it's ridiculously expensive.
Too
It
expensive.
it just missed all the marks for the the people, the market share that it was designed for. But the ID Buzz, like many other EVs, I think to me this is the biggest news story of 2025 was the major retreat from full EVs across the world by manufacturers. You know, coming out of COVID, 2023, 2022, 24, everybody thought EVs were going to save the world because we're all dying and hiding from COVID, and the great savior was going to be EVs. Companies dump millions and billions of dollars in EVs, governments passed regulation. And once again, this is prediction, desire, fever, beliefs, all that planted before reality and what the situation is and what the market wants and what the market can support. And, it's kind of like the Holland tulip craze. This was a craze that was not substantiated by anything that was absolutely possible. So for me, that's the biggest thing, $75 tax credit gone in this country, shifting
Yeah, you
consumers
said that too
still
quick. $7,500
$100 federal tax credit
per car. That's cash you get.
gone. Yep, gone. Consumer preferences realize, oh, wait a minute. Where can I recharge this thing? Oh, there's nowhere to recharge it. Oh, my credit card doesn't work. Oh, the app doesn't work. Oh, I don't have a Tesla. I can't go to that one. the whole screwed up thing where the government didn't have uniform plugs, uniform. I mean, you can get gas anywhere, right? It's all the same damn thing. It fits in your car. You can't do that with an EV. Why? It doesn't make sense to me that the government didn't step in and figure that out.
I
So
think,
I'm gonna,
yeah, finish your point.
so I think the governments the government and globally, governments were at fault for not initiating a global standard. Now you can only use a USB-C on your iPhone, right? The EU said, we're done with these damn cords. No USB, no USB micro, USB-B, USB-A. No, we're done with this. Every cord is a C. I mean, how smart was that? I mean, I have a case that I travel with that's full of nothing but different cables. Can you imagine a car? So,
Well,
I mean,
of course you're right, Stefan, and I agree with you. I applauded when we went to the USB-C standard, and Apple couldn't have their own one, so they,
yes,
which I didn't like. But
I hated that.
okay, but let's say they went to one standard, and they kind of did go to the de facto standard, which is the Tesla. But let's say every single EV there's only one charging station standard. Let's say that happened magically in 2025. I don't think the story would have been any different. I think this is a story of government hubris, and it's China, and it's Asia, and it's Europe, and it's the United States. And governments said, hey, we're selling, and let's take the US for example, we're selling 15 to 18 million cars every single year. People need new cars. So we're just going to put this regulation in that says they have to be zero emissions. And people are going to do it because, hey, the manufacturers will start making cars like this and people need cars, so they're going to buy them. And the hubris was not taking into account the fact that people just hold on to their cars. They
Right,
don't have to get rid of them in 5 years. They can keep them for 10, 15, in some cases 20 years. You don't need to get rid of your car. And that was the problem.
right. So I don't want to, entrenched beliefs are really altered by exposure to fact. And then my second favorite quote is, don't confuse me with the numbers I've already made up my mind. But I know we beat on EVs, but I just want to give you some numbers of what happened in 2025 to major automotive manufacturers by their being driven into something they thought that they had to comply with governmental standards they thought was going to be the saving grace, and it wasn't. So Ford, the F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck, gone. The next electric truck T3 gone. What they're switching to is what's called an EREV, extended range electric vehicle. So that's got a battery, but it's got a gas generator. The gas engine makes electricity to charge the battery, make it go. That's where Ford is changing its focus. Electric commercial vans gone. $19.5 billion write down tied to their EV strategy. $19.5 billion write down. Can be recognized over the next 2 years. 8.5 billion of that from canceled EV models, 6 billion from dissolving a battery joint venture, 5 billion in related program cost. I mean, think about it. That is huge. And even prior to 2025, Ford had already lost $15 billion going into 2025 on their EV investment. I always thought, Jim Farley was the dude, man. Well, there were some bad mistakes made at Ford, but Ford has said, all right, they finally this year said, we're done. We're going to do a mix of hybrids and extended range EVs and pure EVs, but we're not going where the government thinks we should be. So they're betting on the margins. General Motors is not quite as drastic as Ford. They're doing more of a strategic realignment than a major retreat. But General Motors took a 1.6 billion dollar hit related to EV capacity. They cut EV capacity at multiple plants, including the Hummer, the Lyriq, the Vistic. They cut out 1,200 jobs. So once again, the numbers are all there. Porsche, we are huge Porsche fans. Boy, they took a big hit. And they're a small company. They're not retreating completely from EVs, but they took a $2.7 billion hit And VW Group took a $5 billion hit. That's a lot. 2.7 billion for Porsche is way different than Ford's 5 billion a year. I mean, way different if you look at overall. And just so to show you where we're at, I want to talk. You say, oh yeah, well, yeah, still the numbers. Let's say you bought one of these EVs in 2023, 24, 2025. You were all about it. So you went out and bought the Jaguar I-Pace, right? It came in, the SUV, the battery. It is the number one depreciating vehicle in the entire world. In 3 years, it loses 75% of its value. 75% in 3 years. The Audi e-tron, which is I think the e-tron is so cool. I absolutely love the Audi e-tron. 70% loss in 3 years. What this tells you is luxury buyers chase the newest in EV tech, not the used one. The Porsche Taycan, 65% loss in 3 years. Lord, if you have a base model or an early 4S, you're going to take a real bath on that. I mean, even higher. So, these cars were expensive to develop. They're expensive to produce. They came in high dollar. They were charging more than what they were actually building the cars out as. They're incredibly complicated to repair out of warranty. But boy, what a loss. So to me, that is the biggest, the tsunami has struck in 2025 for EVs.
I
Um,
think you're absolutely right, Stefan. I love the way you put that. And it was a tsunami.
it was a
Um,
tsunami. It's hit and it's gone.
for
Yeah.
years, we're physicians, so we talk to other physicians. Whenever someone asks me about buying an electric vehicle, I always said the same thing. Okay, that's fine, but make sure you lease it. And if you lease it, you have that downside protection from that incredible depreciation hit.
Yeah.
And I'll give you two numbers. For me, this is it. When it comes, I agree with you. I think it's the biggest automotive story for 2025, and I love the way you framed it. I'll say this: these are the two numbers that I think of. Ford makes approximately 10 to 20, probably $15,000 net profit on every single F-150 that they sell. They lose $40,000 on every single F-150 Lightning electric vehicle. That's why they stopped making it. $40,000 loss compared to $15,000 net profit. Porsche they were the most profitable car company in the world. They were making a net 10% profit on every single vehicle that they sold. They went heavy into the EV world with the Macan and the Taycan. They now make a net profit of 0% on what they sell.
Yeah. I mean, you know, EVs are niche vehicles for the wealthy, basically what they are. It is a convenience item. It's like getting a brand new freaking iPhone, getting a brand new laptop every year. It's a piece of software. And for the right people, I think it's great. But our automotive manufacturers globally that dove into this trying to keep up with the Chinese, but I've said this before and we'll change subject real quick. But globally, everybody after this melee of 2025, 26 is going to have a very hard time to be competitive with the Chinese because the Chinese government has influxed so much money into the electric vehicle market. Their EVs are the standard of the world. They really are. I mean, and Jim Farley is scared to death of that the day that the tariffs come down, 100% tariff on any Chinese vehicle to come to America. The day these tariffs go away, it's going to be frightening. And if the British car industry, the German car industry doesn't do something to protect themselves against the Chinese, you can't catch up after this kind of loss because that R&D is going away. It's moving to other areas. There's some, but not at the rate of the Chinese. So enough with that. I've said that before, but
Well, let me shift gears a little bit because I wanted to talk about something that's a 2025 story, and it was a 1995 story. It was a 1990 story. And it's amazing to me that this is still a story, but this is reality in 2025, and we know the future is coming. But here's the present. If Ford spun off their F Series business F-150s, F-250s, all those F series, they sell between, usually 700,000 to a million a year every single year. And again, you multiply 700,000, 800,000 times 15,000 net profit per vehicle. You get many billion, I think it's $3 or $4 billion profit, pure profit. If they were to spin off their F series vehicle business, it would be worth more than Ford is worth currently.
Wow.
And it's exactly the same thing for GM, but GM, in addition to their Silverado, which sells maybe 400,000, not as much as the F1, but they also have their full-size SUVs, Escalades, GMC
Suburban.
Yukon Denali's, the Chevy Tahoes. All of that business is billions of dollars. I would venture, and GM's never going to say this, but I bet you every penny of GM profit, just like every penny of Ford profit comes from the F series, every penny of GM profit comes from those big SUVs and mostly the big SUVs.
Oh yeah, I agree. The Denali, the Escalade, and then the pickup trucks. That's it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it boggles my mind because this none of these cars make any sense. People use them for
No.
everyday drivers.
Yeah.
They don't make any sense. You're going back and forth to work. You drive 12 miles
I know,
back and
but
forth.
dude, man, there's nothing like an F-150 Platinum on the interstate. It's unbelievable. And I imagine a Suburban. Oh my God. They're
I
they're
know.
fantastic.
I don't hate these vehicles. I actually kind of like them.
Yeah.
I don't have one. But you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's amazing this is not sustainable.
Well, you know, Steve, it comes back to what you said all the time. The dogs aren't eating the dog food. Okay. The dog food that Americans want are pickup trucks and large SUVs. That's what Americans want.
We
That's
should
just,
eat we should eat salads and a Mediterranean diet, and everyone's
yes.
at McDonald's or In-N-Out Burger.
Yes. Or more red wine and not Miller Lite, you know?
And Waffle House.
Yes.
I just shake my head and go, this makes no sense.
It doesn't, but it's the reality. And I fell back. I mean, I originally said I was going to sell my F-150 and get a Ranger. I got in that Ranger and I felt claustrophobic. I'm like, it's not big enough. And I absolutely love my F-150. And I
I,
do
I
like my
tell
Bullet too,
I
you
tell
know?
people if you have a Toyota Land Cruiser, Toyota Tacoma, Toyota 4Runner, or a Ford F-150, and you want to sell it, it does not matter what year it is. There's
Yeah.
an ocean of people that are ready to buy your
Yes.
vehicle.
Yes. Absolutely.
Anyway,
Anyway,
anything else topic-wise you wanted for 2025? Those are the ones
I
that I
think we
came
kind of
up
probably,
with.
I know we probably warn you. I'm sorry, listeners, if we warn you out on the EV, but
Stefan, it's the
we've
biggest
talked about
story.
this and
I think
talked
it's the
about
biggest
it.
story for the last 10 years.
It is, and what we've talked about came to fruition, but it all comes back to you, Steve-0. The dogs aren't eating the dog food.
Yeah,
I think that's just one of the greatest things you've ever said. That there's so, if you're a manufacturer, unless you're Steve Jobs and can design something that people don't know they want it until they get it in their hand or see it. Steve Jobs was amazing about that. And
right.
Sony used to be that way. I mean, Sony came out with the Walkman and the first little TV you could put on your tummy watch. That's an interesting story, another day story, but the American breed of dogs had zero appetite for EVs. And the global presence of Ford with their EVs was not large enough. You can't sell a F-150 globally EV. No. So I think, hopefully I think Jim Farley can rescue this and
You
bring it
just
back.
just just forget about EVs.
Yeah.
Model T,
Yes.
Model A,
Model T. Yes.
Chevy, 55 Chevy, 57 Chevy, Chevy Impala in the 60s, Buick Riviera, Volkswagen Golf, and then the BMW sedans, Mercedes, and then the Chevy Tahoe, and et cetera. But this is the way it goes. And all along automotive history, somebody made something that people really, really wanted. Those dogs were eating those dog foods.
Yes. And then every now and then you get the Lee Iacocca and the Chrysler minivan, which nobody knew they needed it until he designed it. So there still is that opportunity. The old Steve Jobs, you know, if you design it and it's the right thing, it will work. But anyway, so we've beaten that horse. But
Well,
so
it's fun to think,
it
okay,
is.
what's next? Because there's going to be
What's
something
next?
next. F-150s and Escalades are not going to be what people want forever. And I am curious to see what's going to be next because there's going to be something next.
Yes. I like your idea of the PHEV with a 100-mile battery. Or we could say, you know, 50 true miles. That may mean it's a rating of 75 or 100, but to get rid of this bullshit mileage with EVs, you have no idea what you're getting. Wintertime, cold tide. So it needs to be kind of, city highway. It needs to be summertime, wintertime, real miles. But I think you're right. I think the sweet spot for everybody that would I think, I think 100 true miles. But that means Ellen don't have to charge the car twice a week. Because think about it, you got every time you drive in the garage, you got to plug it in. Does that get tiring? I don't know. I've never owned one. Do you get tired of driving in and plugging it in? Do you get tired of having the cord dangling off the wall? I don't know that. It's probably better than going to the gas station. I mean, I freaking hate going to the gas station. That's why I do love my 30-gallon tank.
Part of the problem is that this has essentially been gaslighting consumers and
Yes.
saying, yeah, you're going to go 300 miles, and they get it, and they never go 300 miles. And that's
Yes, it
part of the
ruins it.
problem.
Yeah, it ruins the experience. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
that's it
does
for
this
20.
dress make me look fat? That's what it is. You get it, and you're like, yeah, it does. No, it doesn't go as far as you think it does. It's that, yeah, it's the reality of it.
All right. With
Uh,
with that wonderful note, Stefan,
that's that extra hot
does the
sauce you always
stress
ask
make you
about.
look fat? Oh my gosh. Well,
So,
anyway, yeah, that's it for 2025. Close us out, man.
all right, everybody, thanks for hanging with us, and best wishes to all of our listeners and to our other co-host Adams, and as he's sorting through some issues. But wish you the best for the happy new year, and thanks for listening, hanging with us. Remember to like, subscribe, and as long as there's at least one listener, like maybe my parents or my buddy Jimbo, we'll keep doing this.
Amen.
All right, see you, dude.